Has there ever in all the history of art been a more garbage painter than Mark Rothko? Yeah, me. In all seriousness, I don't think Mark Rothko is that garbage of a painter. I'm not the biggest Rothko fan on earth, but I do think that Michael Knowles should perhaps educate himself a little bit more before he posts this ridiculous photo. Though perhaps it's a joke, I don't know. But I'm going to take it seriously. Hopefully he'll see this video and realize that there are some interesting things happening here, especially for him as a religious person, that he might enjoy, actually, about a Rothko painting. So what does he get wrong? He's looking at the painting as if it's a painting of something, instead of looking at it as if it is something. It is not a painting of rectangles. It is paint in the shape of a rectangle. That sounds really esoteric, so what do I mean? In order to answer that, we're going to have to school Michael Knowles yet again. Basically, Knowles doesn't understand the treachery of images. That's that painting of the pipe by Magritte that says this is not a pipe. Paintings are not representations of things, they are paintings. This sort of navel-gazing is what happened to painters after the invention of the camera. They had to wrestle with the inevitable demise of painting as representation when the camera does it so much better and faster. Honestly, why are folks like Knowles so obsessed with the skill of an artist who can paint a portrait in a photorealistic manner? We even call it after a photograph, acknowledging that a photo does the same thing. Why are we insistent on painters slaving away, making one painting every 2 years as if they were cameras? People aren't cameras. So why are we obsessed with a good painting looking like a photograph? This is where Knowles is being very unreasonable, or ignorant, or naive, I don't know. But I would love to talk to him about it. Like, honestly, if you watch this, Michael, I would love to talk to you about it. So what the heck are painters doing in the middle of the 20th century? What is Rothko doing if he can't beat the snap of a shutter? My least favorite art historian of all time, Clement Greenberg, gets at this in his essay, Modernist Painting, written in 1960. He writes, "The essence of modernism lies, as I see it, in the use of the characteristic methods of a discipline to criticize the discipline itself, not in order to subvert it, but to entrench it more firmly in its area of competence." He continues, "What had to be exhibited and made explicit was that which was unique and irreducible, not only in art in general, but also in each particular art." That's really high-minded. What does he mean? A painting needed to use the methods of its discipline to criticize painting, not to subvert it, but to make painting do what only painting can do. The painting exhibited should therefore be only achieved through paint, not photography, not sculpture, not theater, music, or dance, but painting. You can see how this is the beginning of critical theory, but Greenberg himself loved Kant and his critique of pure reason and pure judgment. Kant's thinking about how can we critique reason? Only with reason. So you can see Greenberg is taking that notion into the arts and saying, how can you make painting be only about painting, not serve literature or serve religious storytelling or serve representing light like a photograph, but rather let painting be paint. So does this really fully explain Rothko though? If it does, then what Rothko is doing is showing you what only paint can do. This has not impressed Michael Knowles. He probably wants to see something he recognizes. I think he wants to see a painting of something, not a painting that is an optical phenomena only achievable through paint. Honestly, it is quite navel-gazing of Rothko, isn't it? To say, look at my painting. This is all that paint can do. Look at it. It's just painting, thinking about painting. If we take Michael Knowles' question seriously, I think we'll actually look to a different artist, not Rothko. Knowles asks, has there ever in all history... Sorry, I keep on messing up his question because it's worded so weirdly. But basically, is there a more garbage painter than Rothko? I take this to mean, has there ever been a painter who makes paintings of something less than Rothko? And the answer to that is yes. Add Reinhardt. I mean, he's got white paintings, he's got black paintings, there's nothing there. There's not even a rectangle next to a rectangle or a rectangle on top of a rectangle. All there is the painting and maybe some shades of variations of a color. But is Greenberg right about Rothko? Is it correct to think of Rothko as making paintings that are just about paint? I want to question that. Greenberg, after all, was the champion of what was called modern art, the modern art movement, but he was also quite compromised, in my opinion. He was a part of the American Committee for Cultural Freedom, which was a CIA-funded organization that sought to beat the Soviet propaganda machine. Greenberg championed the freedom of modern art over the repressed Soviet artwork called socialist realism. Socialist realism was a form of art that was focused on specific propaganda like representations of Lenin and Stalin, not unlike most official religious artwork. In fact, a ton of it, you would see it immediately and think, oh, this is political propaganda. At the very least, you have to agree that Rothko is not making what we would typically assume to be political propaganda, even though the CIA was using the criticism and curation of the American abstract expressionists as a propaganda tool. So what is happening in a Rothko painting then? If it isn't a painting of something, or just an exploration of what paint can do, what could it be? Well, in this case, I actually want to turn to what Rothko said about his own paintings, because I think that of all the criticism I've read, or the explanations and interpretations of it, I think Rothko is the closest, even though oftentimes the artist themselves is not necessarily the person who understands the work the best. But in this case, I think he's the closest that I've seen. Rothko writes in an essay titled "The Romantics Were Prompted." Pictures must be miraculous. The picture must be for the artist, as for anyone experiencing it later, a revelation, an unexpected and unprecedented resolution of an eternally familiar need. Many modern artists like Rothko were not seeking what was most unique to paint, that is, what can only paint do. Rather, they were wondering what can paint as paint mean. Rothko thinks there is a revelatory experience possible in his paintings, while Greenberg is most interested in what can painting do to make painting the most painterly paint that paint can paint. But Rothko is saying paint by itself can reveal something. That means you shouldn't look at them as if they are a picture of something. You should gaze at them as if they might reveal something. As C.S. Lewis says in his book, An Experiment in Criticism, the first demand any work of art makes upon us is to surrender. Look, listen, receive. Get yourself out of the way. There is no good asking first whether the work before you deserves such a surrender, for until you have surrendered, you cannot possibly find out. So what should Michael Knowles do? Well, first of all, when I look at this tweet, I think he's in the way. That's just my own little joke. I would recommend Jonathan Anderson and William Dearness's book, Modern Art and the Life of a Culture. It's a major counter-argument to the Greenbergian claim that modernism flattened out painting and drained it of God. I think it's better to say that what the modern artists are doing are looking closer at something. As we develop technologies that allow us to look into the center of a molecule and out into space further than ever, artists are starting to realize that even in the most minute details, you can find something revelatory. You don't need an image of an epic battle, but rather you might encounter something in just a single color relationship, just the depth of paint. Rothko, as he said, is searching for a revelation in the painting that will satisfy an eternally familiar need. That need must be the ultimate meaning that we are all searching for. I would not go so far to say that a Rothko painting will provide it, but it might. You will need to surrender yourself to a work of art first in order to find out. Next time Michael Knowles or you have the opportunity to see Rothko, get up close, as if it were a mirror, and gaze into it. Let the effect of the chroma, of the color, invade your retinas. They're portraits for a reason. They're meant to confront you as if you were looking at a person. How far away do you stand from a person when you talk to them? How far away did Moses stand from the burning bush, or that empty space between the wings of the ark? Stand there and let it impact you. Let it unfold the visual experience and look into the painting rather than at the painting. And you might find some interesting depth there. At the very least, I think you'll be surprised to realize how much of a vibration or a hum the paintings seem to have. To me, they're often some form of a singular chord humming over time. So maybe it will reveal something meaningful, or maybe it'll be just garbage to you. But I hope that after diving deeper into Rothko, giving him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, you might realize that there's something there. There's definitely a possibility for it to be more than just garbage.